I was wrong about Hermit Purple. I know, if the people who absolutely despise me for seemingly no reason or to be believed, or the absolute opposite of the spectrum, the people who idolize me for also no particular reason and think that I'm some sort of god above everybody else, then this statement will probably come as a massive surprise. But believe it or not, I am wrong about some things, because I'm a human and I make mistakes. And thinking that Hermit Purple is useless garbage is absolutely one of those mistakes. Another one being Purple Haze, but that's a video for another day. And I'm sure there are some other things, other than Whitesnake. Fight me. Anyways, how did I get Hermit Purple so wrong? Well, the thing I think I didn't quite understand here is, first of all, I'd never played against a single Hermit Purple player with more than 4 brain cells. And of course, when trying to figure out if a stand is good or not, that's usually not a good indicator. And the other one is, Hermit Purple was basically completely worthless until they added that second Vine Trap ability. The second Vine Trap is still extremely easy to block and is incredibly telegraphed, but at the end of the day, it takes 0 skill to land and literally aims itself. So when it comes down to it, a move that you can't miss, that the opponent has to react to, and if they don't, they get screwed, is pretty damn good. But the main factor that people always complain to me about, and I don't think they understand from that tier list that I made, is that was solely based on 1v1. And if we're considering teams modes as well, Hermit Purple is probably one of the best stands for those modes. The Vine Trap alone is basically just Crazy Diamond's Rock Trap, but on demand on a relatively short cooldown. It 100% guarantees your teammates any of the moves they have, whether it be beatdowns, reality override punches, or otherwise. And the last thing that I have to mention in this extremely long intro is that this video was a long time coming. I meant to make it almost a week and a half ago, but unfortunately they introduced an update which stalled it even more, and then that update broke one of the abilities. The Vine Slap move just wasn't working at all for a little bit. Obviously that's since been fixed, but I had some other stuff I had to get done, so the review got stalled. But now, since I've finally cleared out all the extra footage I have, and this is the last thing I need to get rid of, we're gonna do the Hermit Purple review. So finally, without further ado, let's jump into the moveset, and I'll talk about what Hermit Purple is capable of. So the first thing we have to mention about Hermit Purple and its moveset is its overall stand speed. And surprisingly, despite not having a barrage, Hermit Purple's stand speed isn't exactly super fast, but it's definitely faster than your default M1. This does mean that going up against some of the much slower stands in the game, like the Hand, you are going to be able to outpace their M1 attacks. Just a nifty little thing to know. As for directly offensive right-in-their-face moves, you have access to 2 of them. The first I wouldn't talk about on any other stand, but considering that Hermit Purple is a non-humanoid stand, I should probably mention it, and that's that Hermit Purple has a barrage finisher. This barrage finisher isn't really a barrage finisher, considering that there's no barrage, but it behaves in all the same ways that a barrage finisher would. It'll block break, it can be parried, won't get cancelled if you get hit, and it ragdolls your opponent. Really simple stuff. As for your other direct physical attack, we have Double Vine Slap. This move is the move you'll be using the most in neutral, mostly because it has almost no counterplay. If you start hitting your opponent with this, they're done. They have next to no options. They can try to mitigate your damage at least a little bit, but unless they're really smart and with some sort of counter, you're probably in trouble. The Double Vine Slap's first hit is blockable, but the second one block breaks no matter what, and neither hit can be parried. This means that they can block the first hit, but if they try to get out of the second one, they're almost certainly going to get hit by it. And considering the massive hitbox on this move, it's extremely easy to hit, and it's the most option move that you'll just throw out when you're playing. As for utility moves, you've got 2 of them. The first and most obvious is your grapple. This move's most clear use is to be able to easily traverse terrain. Whether it be mountains in SBR or the buildings in main game, you can easily use grapple to get on top of things without too much trouble. As for its secondary use, this move is able to grab onto opponents and pull them towards you. Now, just being able to pull opponents towards you in of itself is not very useful, but after unlocking the Vine Trap upgrade, that's where your options really start to branch out. This upgrade allows you to do 2 things. First of all, if you're grappled onto somebody and you press R or whatever you bind it to during the grapple, you're able to wrap up the opponent in vines. This move referred to as Vine Trap. While Vine Trapped, the opponent's only option is to barrage. They can't move, block, or do anything else. And the second is that it unlocks another move that you're allowed to do while on the ground and not grappled, which is your secondary Vine Trap, or Vine Trap 2. Now, Vine Trap 1 and Vine Trap 2 behave very differently. Vine Trap 1, of course, you can only get out of a grapple, and if the opponent blocks during that grapple at the correct time, the move is both able to be parried and able to be blocked. Whereas if you're using Vine Trap 2, the only thing the opponent can do is block. There's no way to parry this move. But the thing that needs to be considered about both Vine Trap 1 and Vine Trap 2 is, despite the fact that there definitely should be, there's no cooldown between when you can use both of these moves and whether or not you can use them in succession. And if you don't quite understand what I mean by that, basically what I'm saying is you can Vine Trap to someone, which is unparryable and can only be blocked, and guarantee that into the Vine Trap 1, which stuns them again. In other words, it just gives you more free damage. I don't do it at all in the future gameplay. I apologize. I didn't do it then because I didn't know about it. And obviously I'm not alone, because even some of the best Hermit Purple players I've seen weren't doing this, and I'm not sure why. Maybe there's some hidden drawback, but genuinely, I have no clue. Now, as for that second utility move, if you get yourself in a sticky situation and you need to get yourself out of it very quickly, you can, of course... And with that, we're gonna wrap up with Hermit Purple's moveset, so we'll jump over to strategies, and I'll tell you what I didn't already tell you in the moveset about how exactly you should be playing with Hermit Purple. So starting things off here, I'm just gonna have to be brutally honest with you right off the start. Hermit Purple is easy. And when I say easy, I mean really easy to play. So easy, in fact, that I think a toddler with no thumbs could probably successfully pull off the combos that you have to do with this stand. Doesn't matter what spec you use, doesn't matter how good you are at the game, you can probably play Hermit Purple at the highest level possible. And anyone that's going to be upset with me saying that is probably a Hermit Purple player who's in denial about it. Come on, guys. I've played it too, you've played it, we both know it's true. But what is the Hermit Purple flowchart? Well, I'll tell you. You usually live or die based on how smart your opponent is, but you can do a few mix-ups to try to catch them off guard. The main thing that you'll be doing a whole lot of is using your Joestar technique to try to bait your opponent into doing something stupid, while also using your double vine slap while in that speedy state. Since you can use moves while you're running fast and it won't cancel it, using the double vine slap then is smart, since you'll be moving faster and it will be much easier for you to catch your opponent. And because this move has the hitbox of a truck and is incredibly difficult to miss, it doesn't really matter how good or bad your aim is. If you're anywhere remotely close to the opponent, you're gonna hit them with it. This move is the chip kind of move that you'll be doing in between the cooldowns for your other moves. And those moves, of course, are your Vine Trap 2 and the grapple with the Vine Trap 1. The idea here is that you want to be able to hit this Vine Trap 2. Hitting the Vine Trap 2 depends on your opponent's connection, as well as how smart they are and how much they're paying attention to their surroundings. Even some of the best players are going to get slipped up by this every once in a while, but most of the players in YBA are awful, and they're never going to block your Vine Trap 2. What this means is free combos. When you get a Vine Trap 2, unlike the background footage, which in this regard you should probably just ignore, you should immediately grapple onto them and do the Vine Trap 1. After doing the Vine Trap 1 and you're falling down, mash your heavy punch key. And by heavy punch, I of course mean the barrage finisher, not the double right click. This is because if your opponent barrages here right afterwards, they're going to do a bunch of damage to you and combo you afterwards, and you don't want that. As well as the fact that since they're vine trapped, they can't parry your heavy punch. So if they try to barrage, they get their barrage canceled by the heavy punch, and if they don't get barrage, they get knocked down anyway. Free damage for you. If you have double vine slap, you can use that here, but I would recommend against it since double vine slap is stupid easy to hit compared to your barrage finisher, and since the barrage finisher is effectively a free parry, it's much more effective to just use this now since you probably won't be able to use it later. After you hit the barrage finisher, back off. Never try to go in and M1 people while they're vine trapped unless they've already used their barrage previously. You can see it in a lot of bad Hermit Purple players, especially my previous self, that if you ever try to go in to M1 people while they're in vine trap, they're just gonna barrage you and get a bunch of free damage or a free combo. Considering that you basically have no reason to take any of that damage, just don't. Do the heavy punch finisher and get out of it. As for how you want to go about landing the Vine Trap 2, that's where things get a little bit more technical. I have seen a lot of players use their grapple to go over top of people and then use the Vine Trap when they're not paying too much attention, but I would kind of recommend against this, considering that if you use your grapple here, you're not going to be able to grapple them after they get Vine Trapped, and that's losing out on 20 or so more damage. And that damage racks up, so it's not really worth wasting. Like I said earlier, against bad players, you can kind of just throw this out at medium range, it locks on and it never misses. But against some better players, you'll have to get a little bit creative. Because of Joestar technique, Hermit Purple is really good at baiting people into doing stupid options. If you just hover around your opponent with Joestar technique right outside the range, they'll usually throw out a barrage or some sort of other move to catch you. The big thing here is patience. Against better players, you just have to bide your time and wait until they do something stupid a lot of the time. And when they do that stupid move with a bunch of end lag, you punish them with your Vine Trap too. The other time you can catch them with it, which is kind of a mix-up, but not a true combo whatsoever, is to do a double Vine Slap and then immediately follow it with a Vine Trap too. People are pretty much never going to fall for this more than once, but for the first time in a first stock of a 1v1, you can probably get away with it. Outside of that though, like I said, Hermit Purple's brain dead. Anybody can use it. I know there's some technical stuff you can do with grapple where you try to block break people that try to parry you by grappling them and using Scarlet Overdrive or something. But again, that throws away your grapple. It takes a lot of practice, and even the best players who I see try to do that mess it up consistently. So obviously that's not a consistent trick, and I would recommend if you're trying to get damage, I would not try to go this route. If you really want to learn it, go ahead. But it's a lot easier to just go about the regular flowchart and you'll get away with a whole lot more. Anyways, that's what I got for you in the strategies, so we're going to move on to how to counter it, and then after that, we'll jump to the conclusion. The name of the game when it comes to counterplay for Hermit Purple is patience. It works both ways. If the Hermit Purple is waiting for you to do something stupid, and you just don't do something stupid, then you'll be okay. Now obviously, you need to use moves to get damage. So you can't just sit there running in circles around the Hermit Purple while they run circles around you and do nothing. And that definitely won't work since they can just constantly throw out double Vine Slap, which assuming that you're not using any sort of counter stand, you can't do anything against. So if you are in that sort of predicament, what you need to be doing is waiting and only going for barrages. The reason that you're going for barrages is if it whiffs, then you can immediately hold block afterwards, and if they try to go for their Vine Trap too, it's going to get blocked. If you use any sort of large end lag move and you whiff it, you're going to take a boatload of damage. That boatload of damage is avoidable if you don't throw out a bunch of moves that have a ton of end lag and then miss them. So in reality, you just should not risk throwing out any moves other than barrages. It's probably super lame and it's probably super boring on your part, but it is hands down the best way to fight against Hermit Purple. The easiest way to deal with them, as usual against any stand that does not have TS resist, is time stop itself, but in reality, any of the time manipulation stands that have a time skip have a relatively easy time when it comes to Hermit Purple. Time skip to barrage is something that's very difficult to react to, considering that it's basically instant. That's the whole idea of a time skip. And so unless the Hermit Purple was preemptively holding block and expecting it, if you just time skip on them and barrage straight away, there's not a whole lot they can do, and they're just going to get comboed for it. As for other stands that can deal with Hermit Purple, anything with a decent counter is able to counterplay against the double Vine Slap. If you just sit there, hold block, and wait for them to hit you with the first hit, and then counter when the second hit's coming, then you'll be able to counter it, you won't get block broken, and you can get a free combo depending on what counter stand you're using. Obviously, for stands like King Crimson and King Crimson Requiem, they have the easiest time against Hermit Purple. Their time erase is easily able to catch them since they can't really run away, and if you just barrage and they decide not to block, they're screwed. They have a time skip, which is easily able to catch them and barrage them. And finally, they've got a counter, which means if they hold block, or really if they do any sort of move against you, and you just use your counter, you'll be able to combo them for it. So both King Crimson and King Crimson Requiem are probably Hermit Purple's worst matchup. So if for whatever reason you're struggling against Hermit Purple, you can grab these. Next up would definitely be the time-stopping stands. Ideally the ones that don't need rage in order to do it. That way you can just stall out the Hermit Purple player, wait until you get time stop, and then use that to get all your damage. Hopefully this guide will become outdated and the timestamps will actually become reasonable at some point, but as of the recording of this, and probably forever, timestop just obliterates any stand that doesn't have TS resist, and with Hermit Purple you don't even need to do any sort of stand knock cheese in order to combo them afterwards, since Hermit Purple doesn't have a barrage, so they can't get out of it anyway. But aside from those specific stands, you're probably going to struggle with Hermit Purple. Catching it can be a serious pain, and if all you're relying on is some heavy hitting, high end lag moves, you're going to be in deep. So if you are in that predicament, remember, barrage and that's it. Play it safe, play it careful, and you can come out on top. With that, we'll jump into the conclusion, I'll talk about how I feel about the stand, and we'll wrap up. So I'll be honest with you, Hermit Purple really bores me. This stand doesn't really have too much going for it when it comes to actual strategy or moves. You kind of just do the same thing over and over again, and the best ways to get damage are things that literally do it for you. Vine Trap 2 is an aimbot move. It plays the game for you. And for me, that just doesn't feel very rewarding to play, and as such, the inclination to play Hermit Purple is not that strong. I'm sure for those of you that are just looking for something that's pretty easy to play and will play the game for you, then this is the stand for you. But that's just not me, and I don't have very much fun with it. Doesn't mean the stand is bad, quite the contrary, but I don't have fun with it, and there's not much else to it. As for actual balance, I would suggest a nerf, but as soon as I say that, I'm gonna get jumped on by 100 people saying that I want to nerf some sort of non-humanoid stand that doesn't have a barrage before any of this other stuff. Obviously that's BS, because I do want that other stuff to be fixed, but this video isn't about that other stuff. It's about Hermit Purple and what I think should be changed about it, or not changed about it, and that's usually what this section is reserved for. So I'm going to talk about what I think should be changed about it or not changed about it. And the main thing here, which should be blatantly obvious, which is Vine Trap and second Vine Trap needs some sort of cooldown period a la the double barrage stuff with Boxing Barrage, Haman Barrage, and your stand barrage. I think it's really stupid that if you land the Vine Trap 2, you're immediately able to use Vine Trap 1, which is just the same move, but again, it does all the same things, and it's just another stun, which gets you stuck in place even longer. It's just stupid and feels like it doesn't have any right to be in the game. On that front, I also don't think that you should be able to parry the Vine Trap number 1. If you're not able to parry the Vine Trap number 2, which is way easier to hit, then there's basically no reason that you should be able to parry the Vine Trap 1, which is significantly harder. I don't think it's a secret to anyone that landing a grapple and then using Vine Trap is way easier than just pressing one button. So why is the one button press way better than the one that takes way more startup? Don't make it unblockable or block break or anything, that would be ludicrous. But just leave it blockable. That way if the Hermit Purple wants to throw it out just to see if they get damage and they get blocked, it's not a huge detriment to them. Right now it's just the flow chart. You run around, throw a double Vine Slap, then you go for Vine Trap 2, and if you get the Vine Trap 2, you get the Vine Trap 1, heavy punch, rinse, repeat over and over again. And it'll probably remain like that because I'm sure people like it that way. I wish it had more variety, but that's the way it is. And honestly, the game has been doing a pretty decent job of making their non-humanoid stands not garbage. All of them are pretty decent aside from Mr. President. So like I've said, they could probably just leave Hermit Purple alone, no one would bat an eye, and nothing would really change. Anyways, I don't think I have too much else to say on the topic, so I'll probably wrap it up here. If you enjoyed the video or learned something, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you didn't enjoy the video, didn't learn anything, or think that Whitesnake is a good stand and you shouldn't just get Sea Moon, don't do those things. And with that being said, have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you next time.